Naill Stanage, White House columnist with our partners at The Hill. Naill, thank you for speaking with us. You know, President Biden has slammed, quote, Republican special interests for stopping this, but there are legitimate arguments on both sides of this.
There are absolutely legitimate arguments. I mean, obviously, on the Democratic side, on President Biden's side, it's the idea that you provide relief to these people and you, frankly, encourage people to get educated to the highest level possible, and that is a good thing for the nation. Now, the arguments against it are things like only about 1 in 5 of adult Americans have any student debt at all. So you're giving aid to them and not the other 4/5 of the population. There is also an argument that you aren't doing anything to actually address the soaring costs of college. In fact, you might actually be encouraging people to think that future debts will also be relieved or wiped out in some way. So there's the question of so-called moral hazard comes into it as well.
You know, and it's so important also to look at context in everything, because we know President Biden, not the only president behind this. The former President Trump, put freezes into effect as well.
Yes, that's right. During the pandemic, it was President Trump who first put the freeze or the pause on repayments. And that obviously is now being extended even further, even though technically or officially it isn't a case of a national emergency anymore. The authority to do that, to pause student loan repayments, is fairly broadly accepted. So the pausing is not quite so controversial. It is the broader cancellation of student debt that obviously has drawn these court challenges and has critics questioning whether that is an overreach in terms of executive authority. President Biden very adamant, of course, that it is not any kind of overreach.
Well, so, Naill, I think the big question here, people who would benefit from this relief and people who are opposed to this relief want to know what's next.
Well, what is next is the court process. There are two questions in terms of the Supreme Court's involvement. One is, will it intervene, as the Biden administration wants, to reinstate this process while the lower courts decide whether the program is legal or not? But then there's the secondary question. Lower courts have, for the moment, ruled the program illegal. The Biden administration obviously is going to appeal those rulings, and that too could ultimately end up before the Supreme Court. So it is a big decision, and it is a process that may take many months yet before it is resolved.
All right, Naill Stanage, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.